So with GT7's new 1.19, aka the free July update, dropping yesterday, I of course didn't cover my thoughts on the patch yesterday because 2 out of the 3 cars were not even available until today in the Legends dealership. Now I'm going to talk about all 3 cars in my brief thoughts in this video, and of course some of the other features that have joined, new scapes for example. But for my more in-depth thoughts on the 3 cars, I will be doing their own individual solo reviews over the next couple of days on the channel. So let's get 2 negative things out of the way first. For those who haven't watched the trailer, who haven't come back to the game and are interested in what to expect, if it's worth coming back to play it, there is no circuit in this update. He is hoping it's going to be a bi-monthly thing, maybe last month, next month, but not this month. We'll have to wait and see though. The thing to me which actually bothers me more is that this still has not brought the ability to sell our cars as far as I can tell. To me there's actually far less of an excuse for that still to not be in the game. That is not a difficult game mechanic to feature, and stuff like that lagging and dragging its feet really, to me, adds more weight onto the side of this stuff being deliberately drip-fed rather than put out just because it's not ready yet, quote-unquote. I think that's absolute BS, and anyone who uses that argument is just supporting that BS. But maybe that's just me. And I know a lot of you are hoping for having stuff like selling cars. So with that to one side, my brief thoughts on the 3 cars that did arrive: the Porsche 918 Spyder, which of course I was hugely looking forward to, perfect rival for the LaFerrari, technically the McLaren P1, but more so the normal McLaren, which of course we don't have in the game. The Porsche for me is a car that I completely turned around on. Originally it was the least interesting of the 3 kings to me when they came out. Now I actually like it by far the most out of the 3, and I will freely say the main reason why I like the Porsche the most out of the 3 is actually from doing real car reviews on the channel. My tastes have changed from driving all of those different cars in Beards and Cars, and my love for Porsche, my respect for what they can do has improved and increased, and to me I just think the Porsche would suit my style the most out of the 3. It's the least frenetic, the most forgiving of the 3, the most comfortable I would imagine as well, and that just appeals to me a bit more. As far as how it integrates into this game, well, I'm going to get more into it in its own review, but it's a bit of a weird one. It's a bit of a mixed bag, because for everything good about the car, it has something a bit odd as well. So the price is only 1.6 million. In fact, all 3 cars are cheaper than I was worried they might be. Or not worried, but, you know, kind of semi-predicting they would be, like 1 million credits for the Nissan, it's 1.15, so that's pretty close. I predicted 2 million or more for the Porsche, it's 1.6, so that's not too far off, but a good price. And the one I was most off on, which I'm actually kind of happy about, is the Maserati. I thought it was going to be between 6 and 12 million, it's actually 2.9. So it's still not cheap, but for a, you know, iconic vintage racer, it's pretty good, it's pretty affordable. So across the 3, you won't have to grind too much. You know, Le Mans, Spa, whatever, Tokyo, you can earn that kind of money in a decent amount of time if you want the cars. The Porsche, though, has lovely handling, in my opinion. It's super forgiving. For reference, I took it around the Nordschleife, which you'll see again in my car review for it, maybe even in this video as well if I use that footage. And to compare it to a stock Carrera GT, it's a hell of a lot quicker, like around 30 seconds quicker in my experience, which is exactly what it should be, if not more, of course, in the right hands. Some of the curious choices about it are, for example, the wing is not active. You have to actually fit a lowered wing. It costs 500 credits to put the wing down. That's just dumb, let's be honest. There's no reason for that whatsoever. It reminds me of how you can do that to the Hennessy Venom in Forza. Like, why would you pay to put the wing down? It's so stupid, but there you go. Second thing which is weird is you can fully tune it up to like 950 horses, but it still struggles to pass around 220 miles an hour, which is unfortunate, and some people have pointed out it seems like it hasn't been accurately modelled into the game as far as actually having all-wheel drive with those electric motors. So that one to me is more of a typo than an actual problem, because it's not the first time that's happened. The Toyota TS30 hybrid, even as far back as Gran Turismo 6 when it was brought in, they didn't factor in the battery power at all in its spec, which worked to its advantage many times. The Porsche feels like that. So in practice, it feels great. You know, it doesn't feel like it's lacking any grip at all. It's great, in fact. It's similar to kind of a sleeker Nissan GTR in terms of how forgiving it is, but in terms of the performance, it doesn't quite match up what it should be offering. Some have said that when the battery runs out, the performance doesn't change though. I haven't driven mine long enough to run out of battery, but if that is the case, then that is indeed inaccurate. So maybe they need to fix that to some degree, but in terms of what it feels like right now, it's still a fantastic car to work with, albeit a bit of a weird one when fully tuned, in terms of not really reaching that much potential. And even the performance points fully tuned aren't as high as you might think. It's like 750, so still not even close to something like a 911 GT1, which you would think, well, surely the 911 GT1 is going to be a way better car. Well, yes and no, because I would in fact wager a significant amount of money that if you were to take a real-life 911 GT1 road car and put it up against even a real-life 918 Spyder, the 918 would destroy the 911 GT1 around a circuit, pretty much any circuit. Because yes, one is a Le Mans legend, but technology has simply moved on since then. So I believe a 918 should be a lot faster, which also doesn't make sense to that performance point level. That being said though, it looks to be quite a dominant force for Le Mans grinding, so that's potentially an upside. As far as the Nissan goes, which is probably a highlight for many of us, of course fantastic to see a returning face from as far back as Gran Turismo 2, and I really wish we'd have seen in those leaked data mining files something with a SPAS F1 written there, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon. This one though, put simply, I love it. It's a great car to work with. It sits in Group 3, which doesn't make too much sense, but the performance points are around 728, the power is 560 horsepower, weighs barely 1 metric ton, so just over 1,000 kilos. It is rear-wheel drive, turbo aspirated, but it feels like an all-wheel drive car most of the time. It's got so much grip, you can almost floor it out of a corner and even mid-corner without getting much, if any, wheel spin. It's very nice to work with. Should it be in Group 3? In my opinion, no. If this car's going to be in Group 3, then why, for example, is the Suzuki Escudo not in Group B? They are so inconsistent sometimes when it comes to their categories and their performance points. So, yeah, I mean, I know these cars are crazy and different, but if you're going to implement them in the game, implement them in a way that makes sense. So, I love the car. It's a great car to work with. Only downside, and again, I'll talk about it more, only downside I could find, really, is that it has that, classic 1984 turbo lag, which you'd expect. It actually reminds me a little bit in terms of the sluggishness of how the Peugeot 905 used to feel when it was introduced in Gran Turismo 4. It would take quite a long time to change gear, and there was quite a lot of lag there, which it shouldn't have had. So it was a little bit reminiscent of that, but a lovely car to work with, and a fantastic unicorn to bring back. Then last but definitely not least, for me at least, my favourite brand, Maserati. At least my favourite brand academically. My favourite brand in practice is probably Volkswagen, but overall I would say Maserati is my favourite company, and we've only had one in the series up until this point, so it's lovely to see another one, and a vintage one at that, a proper classic racer, a 54 A6GCS Spyder. Similar looking to the Birdcage, again, which you'd find in games like Forza. This one I'm again going to talk about more in its own review at Spa, but it is a lovely little car to work with. As I said, 2.9 million, it's only got 166 horses to work with stock, it weighs 740 kilos, so it's nothing to write home about on paper, but when I took it around Spa, it was 7 seconds quicker than an also stock Aston Martin DB5. Now of course the Aston DB5 is a much bigger, heavier non-race car, but also has a lot more power and torque. And Spa is a very high-speed circuit where something like that on the Aston could give it the advantage. So it's nice to see that the Maserati is a very competitive little car within that world of classic and vintage. And even though you know that most players probably aren't going to bother buying it, because A, most people don't seem to care about Maserati as much as those of us who do, but also it's, a significant amount of cash for a car which many people probably won't use that much, so unless you're a collector first and foremost, you probably just won't bother. If you do, I think it's a lovely little car to work with. It has that traditional, what I like to call like the bathtub style handling, where you kind of steer with the throttle, it floats around a bit, but it's actually a really nice handling little car. You can tune it with a turbo to well over 200 horses. I would imagine it could get a bit leery if you really start putting that serious power down in it. It feels very nicely balanced, almost more like what you might expect from maybe like a classic Lotus kind of racer. It's got that very charming handling, super small, super compact, yeah, just a little ball of fun. And if nothing else, I'm so happy to see finally a second Maserati. And again, to reference those data leaks, which I did a video for, you'll probably seen the annotation at the top of the screen earlier. If you haven't watched that video, be sure to check it out. But there, if those turn out to be true, there should be a third Maserati on the way as well, which I think was it a Mirac or a Bora? I can't remember, they're very similar looking. But yeah, it's great to see Maserati getting some more love. And as far as the rest of the pack, I'm sure they've done different fixes here and there. You could check, the writing for the full breakdown of everything they've done. The new scapes are interesting. Japan as expected, kind of similar looking scapes to what we've already got. The Tomica town is really cool. I don't know how many photos I'm going to actually take there, but it was very much so like a road trip adventure kind of vibe to me, which was very cool to see. And certain cars would really suit being photographed there, like the Tomica Skyline for obvious reasons, maybe others too. Some of the Vision GTs would probably fit right in there. And as far as the rest of the update, well, it adds new career mode events, it adds new menu books. I think a lot of people are kind of getting sick of the menu books at this point because it's very much same old, and I do think Gran Turismo is very much stuck in the exact same rut that Forza Horizon is stuck in. Because although many people would never like to admit that Gran Turismo is similar to Forza in any way, despite 9 times out of 10 never actually playing Forza, Forza has this exact same thing where they bring out new seasonal events, and you can do everything in like an hour or two, and then you're just bored again. Because the game structure is so samey and there's no real stakes to it. Gran Turismo 7, Gran Turismo Sport as well, by extension in my opinion, feel a lot like that. It doesn't really feel like you're working towards anything, it's just a money grinding simulator where you just collect cars for no real reason. You could say that that's pretty much any racing game, but I think many of us would agree there's a lot more to that. Or a lot more than that with many racing games. They do feel like more than that, more substantial, more fun. So I think they need to recapture that magic a bit, and these updates simply aren't doing that. It's nice to see new cars and new features and fixes here and there, but yeah, Gran Turismo, much like Forza Horizon, needs to reconsider their formula. Because they're catering to the TikTok kind of mentality of a 7-second attention span, and that just doesn't last by definition. So I hope they start to make some more interesting changes, some more high-effort changes, rather than just something to keep people satiated for another month, which is what they're currently doing. So ultimately, that's it for my thoughts on the update overall. Tell me yours down below, maybe some stuff that you think I might have missed, maybe some glitches, whatever they might have caused this time, because they usually cause some kind of glitch or exploit. And of course, stick around on the channel for the reviews of the cars. I may do some tunes for them as well. I've possibly got a Le Mans build for the Porsche 918 coming, because even though, like I said, it's a money-grinding simulator, for those who do enjoy the game, there's no reason not to still produce content. And, of course, this is my job, or at least part of my job at the end of the day as well, so it's not like I have much of a choice about producing content either. So, until the next time, I'll see you then. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.